You're listening to YouTube Talk Radio.
There's a piece on townhall.com by Mike Adams. Mike Adams is a criminology professor, University of North Carolina, Wilmington. I want you to listen to this. You and I are paying for this. We're paying to subsidize illegal immigrants. We're paying to subsidize criminality. We're paying to subsidize terrorists. We're paying to subsidize professors who, if they're not terrorists, come damn close to it and certainly sound like it. The smoking gun points to Julio Pino. One can almost understand his initial reluctance to answer questions about his connection to the jihadist website known as Global War. After all, the initial accusations that he gives, comfort and aid to our enemies, were all made by people who write while wearing their pajamas. But I became 100% convinced of his connection to the site, the one that encourages jihad and helps people learn how to make bombs, when I read the April 2006 Columbus Dispatch article by Kathy Lynn Gray. The damning portion is reproduced below. Quote, Kent State University has been dealing for several years with the case of a Muslim professor, Julio Pino, who calls himself the most dangerous Muslim in America. Pino, a tenured associate history professor, angered some faculty members in 2002 when he wrote a column in the school newspaper that was an ode to a Palestinian suicide bomber. He called the bomber a martyr. English professor Lewis Freed called on the university to fire Pino, but Kent State President Carol Cartwright said at the time, the school supports the free exchange of ideas. Apparently the school also supports the free exchange of bombs. Pino now has a blog on the internet where he writes the U.S. servicemen are butchers who massacre Iraqis and urges readers to join the Islamic resistance. Pino said yesterday he had no comment. Had no comment? And by the way, the most dangerous Muslim in America, quote unquote, that line came from the Global War blog site. His response of no comment can be roughly translated as follows. Blank you, infidel, I have tenure. How many times have I said our universities are the last vestiges of Stalinism? And they use tenure to protect these you-know-whats, these barbarians, these creeps. They use tenure so we can't get at them and get rid of them. But it gets worse. He writes on my second of three calls this week to the Department of History. I laid out my accusation on Julio's voicemail. He declined to comment. His silence can be roughly summarized as follows. Blank you, infidel. There he goes again. I have tenure. And then Fox News got involved with an invitation to Pino to debate me on Fox News Live. He declined, which can be roughly translated as, blank you, infidel, I have tenure. Next in line was the staff of Special Report with Britt Hume. When they somehow got through to him directly, Pino refused to deny his association with the Global War blog, a refusal which can be roughly translated as, blank you, infidel, I have tenure. His chairman did not help matters at all when publicly admitted this week that Pino has confessed to him that he does contribute to the site, although he does not own it. Oh, wow. Well, that certainly clears him, just like the guy I know who committed murder and later said, after being caught with the smoking gun, he didn't own it, he just fired a few shots from it. That's all. And speaking of smoking guns, he writes, I'm holding one right in my lap as I write this short column. It is a profanity-laced email from globalwar.bloghi.com using the email address jpino@kent.edu. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Kent State issued a statement yesterday after an investigation that took hours saying that there is A, no evidence connecting Pino to the site, which contradicts his own chairman's statement, and B, no evidence he used Kent State resources in the activities he allegedly wasn't involved with. Well, obviously he did, as Mike Adams writes. So Al Gore, who doesn't go through a metal detector, big hassle, like Al Gore is a terrorist threat. Oh, don't get me started with the global warming. That's a separate issue, but you get my point. Meanwhile, this guy gets tenure, is paid for by the taxpayers, and, of course, he has his First Amendment rights. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Here we have the trifecta. That trifecta of sleaze.